My name's Bob Carr. I used to be an archaeologist for Suffolk County Council, and I'm the trustee who's taken the most interest in the historic background of the building. So I'm going to try and give you, in 4 minutes, a condensed history of the building and why it's important, and then also to go on to what we're going to do, we hope, in this particular room. Now, the building is significant nationally because it's the only surviving medieval Guildhall in its entirety. The walls and the roof are all medieval. You could go to Norwich or King's Lynn and they'll tell you they've got a medieval Guildhall, and it's true, they once had a medieval Guildhall, but some Victorian came along and happily rebuilt it for them, so they now have a medieval Victorian Guildhall. This is a medieval Guildhall, complete with its walls and its roof. What's happened is that building has continued to develop through time because it's been a public civic structure, and that's what you would expect. So the outside face onto Guildhall Street has been clad with a brick skin in about 1806. So that's how you see the Guildhall. But behind that layer of bricks is a flint and mortar wall, which is medieval. And if you look at the windows, you can see how thick the walls are. You've got 3 foot of flint and mortar. It looks exactly like a little medieval church when you look at the windows from inside. And you've already seen, I hope, in the courtyard, the flint work on the the east face of the building, which is intact. The first real refurbishment that happened after the building of the walls in, let's say, 1220, probably was the addition of a rather fancy early English doorway. That's what you came in through, although you may not have noticed it. That dates from about 1225, 1230. The roof must have deteriorated because it was replaced in about 1375 with this timber framed roof. A very, very fine roof with crown posts which runs the entire length of the building, and it's hidden underneath these ceilings. But in the courtroom you can see the arch bracing that confirm that it's there. It's a complete medieval roof, all of approximately one date apart from repairs, and that adds to the uniqueness and the significance of the building in heritage terms. The building, because it was a civic structure, continued to develop through time, and at the end of the life of the abbey, which was the landlord for the whole town until 1550, when the abbey was dispersed in 1550, the Guildhall was taken on by the town, by Jankin Smith, who you may, if you're local people, you'll have heard of Jankin Smith as a local founder of the Feffees. He's the guy on top of the fireplace, and in fact to the left of the fireplace. And he endowed the Guildhall Feffment and built the porch that is the main feature on the west face of the building. The use of the building as a civic structure carried on, and there was a council chamber built probably in about 1550, 1600 outside the building, as a timber framed building out there. It was replaced in 1806 by the building you've already been in. So the Observer Corps room was designed and built in 1806 as a council chamber, and it retains some of the fabric and structure of that. But the building has always been public. It's always been changing. It hasn't had much public access for the last 20 odd years, and that's really the objective. The two main objectives of the Trust are that the building should remain as a public structure, accessible to the public, and secondly that it should be conserved so that the historic fabric that I've outlined remains accessible and usable by people into the long distant future. We're intending to do that by bringing people in to use the building. So, for example, in this room, we intend that it stays pretty much the same as it is now, but is accessible, say, for wedding parties, or wakes, or just parties. It's ideally suited to that. Our main structural alterations are going to be to bring the lavatories up to standard and the kitchens up to standard so that we can have these social functions. At the same time as that, we're hoping to bring people in for cultural activities, so there's an intention to have rotating exhibitions, not only in this room but in the other room, using flexible furniture which can be moved out so the room can be used for social functions. And there's a heritage access plan built in with our consultants Tricolor in order to provide educational facilities for the public at large. And Sarah's going to just outline what Tricolor are intending.
First, I'm going to say, do you think we'd make it an easier fundraising target if we said we're going to put air conditioning in? I think we should think about that. I'm Sarah Dowd. I'm the director of Tricolor, and myself and my colleague Frank, we led on the development of the activity, the interpretation, and the business plan. Those are very boring words for essentially what we've done is helped the trust to design what is going to be on offer here for the public after the project is finished. And one of the big things that we wanted to come up with was a succinct but powerful way of explaining to people what it really is that they're going to experience. And experience is that key word. We've developed the project on. It is no longer the Bury Guildhall Heritage Centre. It is going to be the Bury Guildhall experience. When you walk through the doors when the project is done, you will be stepping back in time. You will be able to see live mock trials going on in the courtroom. You'll be able to go to events where there are Regency dances and you can learn to do a lovely reel in the style of Jane Austen. You'll be able to see young people, primary school children, coming on a June summer's day and learning and meeting a Viking in costume, and where they're told by this Viking what the experience of what was like for people under the Danelaw and what happened to King Edmund. You know, we want to bring the Guildhall to life, and we've approached that with a strategy that's summed up in sort of 3 little mini phrases, and it's the strapline for the project, and that is 1 millennium, 1 building, 1,000 stories. And we're going to tell 1,000 stories of the people of Bury St Edmunds, of Suffolk itself, of the building, in a multitude of ways, whether that's through live action interpreters, whether that's schools groups, whether that's major events, you know, Victorian style Christmas fairs. We want this to be the Guildhall again. The Guildhall being a building for the people, for the community. And that's exactly what we're trying to do. So I'm ever so pleased to see you here tonight, having been on the tour. We hope you will tell everybody about it. We do have a fundraising target to meet, but if you'd like to ask any questions about what we have planned, myself and Frank will be here for the next little while. So thank you, and enjoy the rest of your night.
Thank you very much.